Hi, welcome to the Theotek podcast, where a bunch of ugly guys sit around and talk Bible and church technology. And I am your chief ugly guy, Kevin Purcell, hosting this week. And we're excited because we have a guest with us this week who's going to demonstrate Bibleworks 10. If you didn't know, Bibleworks just upgraded to version number 10, added some really cool new features. And so Dan Phillips, a pastor in Houston, Texas, is going to join us and do that. Good morning, Dan. Thanks for joining us. How are you today?
Good morning. My pleasure. I feel just fine. Thanks. We're glad to be here. Excited about sharing this.
Great. And, of course, we've got our regulars all on board today. We've got Antoine Wright. How are you, Antoine?
Doing great this morning. Thanks, guys.
Good. And, of course, Wes Allen.
Hi. How are you?
And I went to Rick last because Rick got a new toy this week. Show us what you got there, Rick.
Got the Apple Watch. That'll show up there on the camera. It's kind of hard to turn your wrist like that, but yeah, I got my Apple Watch this week and been enjoying playing with that.
What do you?
You know, it's interesting, and I put just some thoughts after one day up on thislamp.com earlier this week. It's interesting, after you have it, it changes your perception. You know, like last week or the week before, I don't remember, we were talking about how neat it would be to put the Bible on there, and Olive Tree's done that. I've got the Olive Tree app on here, but you know, from my perspective, I was thinking, well, I'd really like to have a coordinates on here. But after having the watch, no, I don't want it on there. You know. in fact, you know, when you set it up, it asks you, you know, hey, it says, hey, I've got all these apps that have Apple Watch components. Would you like to put these on there? So I just let it put everything on there that there was an Apple Watch component, and within probably 4 or 5 hours, I was taking them off. You know, it's really neat that there's a OneDrive app for the Apple Watch, but I don't really need that. And I turned off email, for instance, by the end of the first day, because I can't really reply to the email. I can reply to text, so I keep text on there. You know, and I get notifications like the Google chat, you know, when we've sent messages back and forth, those show up on there. But I don't really need all the extra stuff because it's such a small screen, and it's one of those things that I didn't anticipate until I had it on my wrist. But as I was saying before the show, I've gotten really good about, well, and I hold it up Dick Tracy style. You don't really have to do that. You know, you can just have it on your arm, and you know, but when I lift the arm, it almost starts to work naturally now. You know, I lift up my arm and the screen comes on. When that happens, I can say, hey, and I'm not going to say the name because it might trigger people's phones and iPads and perhaps watches, but I can say the name, and then I can say, you know, tell so and so, and I can say something, and it'll send a text, or I can say call so and so, and it'll call that person. And I've gotten just very used to doing that. It's starting to become secondhand. It's very convenient for that. The fitness stuff is already, I think, improving my life. It tells me to stand up every now and then. So if in the middle of the podcast I stand up, you know, it's because my watch has told me to. And it tells
you to take out the trash and stuff?
No, my wife does that for me.
Your wife?
Yeah, but you know, it does things like that. My biggest complaint, and I'll kind of end with this unless y'all have a question or two, but my biggest complaint is battery. Now, it may be because it's new and perhaps I'm using it more than I would long term, but you know, they say that you're supposed to be able to get 18-hour battery. I don't get anywhere near that. By about 8 p.m. every day, I'm down below 10%. And so, you know, I won't, you know, it would last for the average work day, but I want it to last for my day. You know, I want to put it on between 7 and 8 a.m. and take it off when I go to bed. But by the time I go to bed, it would be fully drained. You know, I've had to put it on the charger each evening. So that's my biggest complaint. Maybe that will settle down. That's been a bit of a frustration. I taught a class in Cincinnati last night. I didn't get back till midnight, after midnight, and the watch was just totally drained, but well before that time. So,
Antoine, you had a question.
Yeah, Rick. Since you haven't had it so long, you know, one of the challenges that if folks are reading the different reviews about the Apple Watch, the folks that have had their Apple Watch for 2 days, maybe a week, have one perspective, but then there are those folks that may
Right.
have had theirs for a little bit longer, 3 weeks to a month, where one of the pieces that they're realizing is just how much that the Apple Watch, in some respects, even an Android watch, has taught them to just tune down the amount of notifications that are coming
Yes.
at them. And I know you alluded to it in terms of the email, but what about the other applications that you deal with? Are you finding yourself kind of trimming, the amount of attention that you're paying to those items, or are you paying more attention to some things? How are you dealing with that notifications aspect?
Well, I limited what notifications go to it. I get text, but I don't need news going to it. I can pull out my phone or my computer if I need to do that. I don't need news going to it. I don't want Twitter going to it. I don't get that many Facebook notifications, so right now those are going to it. But I may turn them off. Yeah, it's the stuff that's most personal. If my wife sends me a text, I want that to show up on here. But it's like the smaller the screen, the more personal it gets. And so I don't need all of that other noise. And that allows me just to focus on what's important. And the other thing that we had talked about before, and this was an issue with Wes talking about how he can't stand something on his wrist, that's been a challenge to me too, because I've lost so many watches because I take them off and set them to the side, and I'm trying to just leave it on there to tough it out, and just keep it on there. They say if you do anything for 3 weeks, you can get to a habit. And so I've gotten pretty good about that, because otherwise I'm going to leave it at a restaurant or leave it somewhere, and then my wife will shoot me, literally. So.
Well, listen, I think it'll be great to hear more about that next week, especially after you've had it for more than a week.
Absolutely.
More than a few weeks. I want to get to Bibleworks, and we're excited that Dan decided to show up. I emailed the PR people at Bibleworks that kind of set me up for my review. I'll be writing a review of it for Christian Computing Magazine that will come out sometime later on this month. And go to ccmag.com if you want to subscribe to be able to read that. But they said, we're just so swamped. We're kind of a small company and just a few of us, and we don't really have time to deal with that because we're trying to deal with our customers right now, which I understand that's a valid concern. So I said, well, hey, have you got a power user who would be really good at it? And they connected me with Dan Phillips, who is the official non-Bibleworks employee guru, according to Bibleworks. In his humility, he says that's not the case, but we're just going to let it stand at that. So Bible guru Dan Phillips, please go ahead and demonstrate to us the joys and wonders of Bibleworks.
I'm happy to be in the box they reach for if they don't have the people they really want to use. That's just fine. I've been using Bibleworks probably since version 5. I think version 6 is what introduced the editor in the notepad, I think, and I was using it before then, so that's a way of dating it. And I should say, because my level of enthusiasm may be suspicious, but I really am not on their payroll. I never have been. I'm not a trained presenter. I'm just a very enthusiastic user. I did beta test this, and they've given me some review copies because I blog at Pyromaniacs, which is a high traffic blog. I'm also a pastor, and I've written a couple of books and all, and I've used Bibleworks for all of them. Absolutely love it. So let me take you right from the start, and it's the green one that shares the entire screen, right? Okay, so now do you see my screen? Well, you see you.
It's
you
there.
See the clock. I don't use Windows, but Bibleworks. All right, so you see my desktop, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, good to go. Oh, this is my first time with Google Hangout. So here's my my icon on the taskbar, and I just want to start from this level because one of the cool things about Bibleworks is you can configure different configurations of Bibleworks. You'll see I've got a basic Bibleworks. I've got a daily Bible reading. If I create a new one, I can call it Kevin's Heaven, and that could be Kevin's own, and that will create a configuration for that. When I open that, it just opens to a fresh set of Bibleworks that I can customize And a cool thing is you can have all these versions open at the same time. So if you have different uses for them or different emphases in them, you can go back and forth from Bibleworks to Bibleworks. So let me show you what I've got. And notice, by the way, that started in 37 seconds. That counts the time that we looked at the configuration window and that I created the Kevin configuration. So that's when it starts ticking off its little clock. All right. Everything's showing okay so far?
Yes.
Yeah, how do you get to that configuration box? Because mine just goes right into my...
I'll show you. I'm glad you asked. So let me get in. So I'm going to pick my daily Bible reading just to explain it and show why I've got it. So in order to do configuration, you go to the settings, and because you asked me, I'm going to go blank on it. But no, I'm sorry, I won't either. Startup options and enable configuration manager. So by default, it's not enabled. They just bring you up the same configuration. But you go into the settings, and under general, startup option, and enable configuration manager. Okay. So
cool.
Here is my daily Bible reading, and it's set up very simply. You can name these tabs. I'll explain these tabs in just a moment. But notice I've got one named OT, and then I've got the WTT. I've got the Hebrew text there because I'm reading through the Hebrew Old Testament. Then I've got NT, which is the Greek text. And then I get EB, which I bet you can guess what that is. I'm reading in each of those every day, and it's like having my 3 Bible ribbons, keeping track of where I left off. And you notice at the end is one I just named Bobby because I just did. And that's one I used to toss off and do individual searches, which I'll demonstrate to you just a little bit later. But that's my whatever tab. So this is my devotional setup. And let me close it and go into the general one, and then from that I'll demonstrate all the cool things you can do. So Bibleworks, basic Bibleworks. It's activating lots of databases. It's faster on my desktop computer. It's usually about 5 seconds. Here it was 10 seconds. So you'll notice all these tabs here, and some have asterisks, some don't. Let's start them all with none. I'll right-click this, say clear all tabs except current. So now you see none of them have asterisks. None of them has an asterisk. What that means is if I click in each tab, at present it'll just show whatever I'm currently in. Any tab you click on will start where you're starting from. But now you see they've all got asterisks. If I move out of Genesis 1 in this tab, well, they're all still at the same place. The use for that may not be immediately apparent, so let me just show you. Suppose I'm reading through Genesis, and just to make it interesting, I'm up to verse 13. I'll make 14. I'm up to 14, and I'm just wondering how many times the word lights appears in the Bible, but I don't want to lose my place. Oh, here I've left off in tab 3. I'm messing up my demonstration. Okay, now I'm back in tab 1. Okay, I'm at verse 14. I want to check all the verses with the lights. So I click on tab 2. I just double-click lights if I want that exact word. And in 0.03 seconds, it comes up with, we see down here, 10 hits. 10 times the word lights appears in the English Standard Version Bible. And that way I can go through all these, and I can look at each one, but I haven't lost my place. My place is still kept on tab 1. So tab 2 I can do, and I can do the same thing. I can say, okay, Philippians 2:15, I want to look at that more. So I'll click on tab 3, and now that's got me there, and I could mess around from tab 3 and do whatever I want from there. Then I've kept my places on tabs 1 and tab 2. Then when I'm completely done with all that, I can just go to tab 1, right-click it, pick clear all tabs except current, click it, yes, and now I've all just got the one tab. I can name any of these tabs something different. If I want to make tab 2 my Old Testament tab, I just right-click it, set tab title, and I can type in whatever I want. I can say Old Testament. That's probably not a great idea because when I do that, then I've got this big old tab. So I might want to abbreviate it OT. But of course, it's my software. I can do whatever I want. So there it is, OT.
Dan, can I ask a question quick?
Sure.
Can you reduce the number of tabs that are up there that display by default?
Absolutely. Now you see, with this number, I've got scrolling buttons, so that I can go back and forth. But if that's more than I want, I'll just right-click the 12, delete tab 12, right-click the 11, delete tab 11. If I want to put one back, I can right-click 10 and say insert tab before 10 or tab after 10, and I can name it 11. And now I've got 11 again, but yeah, you can remove them, replace them. You can do anything you want along those lines. This is a very, very customizable software. I only will be able to scratch the surface with you, and in my own skills, like I told you, I'm not a trained presenter. I can only scratch the surface of what it can do, but it's very customizable. For instance, let me show you maybe a less serious customization, but you can actually customize the colors. And I'm pretty sure one of you would want this. You could have a Bibleworks pink if you want.
You know, I did set mine to gray because I had trouble seeing the icons in the new black that version 10 had.
Well, but then you can also, let's go back to something I can stand to look at. I think I was using dark blue. And you can customize those as well. I shouldn't have left that screen, sorry. So colors, so here's the title background. If I click on that, I can pick a brighter blue. See? Or I could go to the color chart and I could pick a darker blue or a different shade that I think might suit me better. So it's very, very customizable.
And by the way, this is one of the new features, isn't it? This was new in version 10.
That's a new feature. I'll be showing you both some of the standard things that make me just love this software and some of the brand new things, which one of them in particular is really amazing. So let's see. Let's talk about the windows. They didn't used to have them labeled. I like that they've got them labeled now. You see, this is the search window. This is the browse window. And you've got two analysis windows. You can close them and just have one, or you can have the two. I always use the two because I've got different uses for each one. In this one, you, as you might guess from the title, you do your searches. In this one, you have the results of your searches to read the text. And this one I'm really excited about. I'll be telling you about this in just a moment or two. And you can actually swap between these two. These tabs drag back and forth, so you can arrange it any way you want. But here you've got, for instance, let me show you how to describe how to show a single verse. Watch what happens when I click this. Now I get all these versions: the WTT, the Biblica Hebraica Stuttgartensia, their Greek, and I arrange the order that these display. You can customize that any way you want. So I've got my Hebrew up top. My Greek, I've got something that shows the Rolf Septuagint and the NA28, I think, New Testament, Nestle Aland New Testament version 28, edition 28, that shows both the Septuagint in Greek with punctuation and the New Testament. So, and then here's all the versions, and if you look at those and you say, well, I don't even know what some of those are, because they try to make them all three-letter abbreviations. If you just click on the Analysis tab here, they have these helpful pop-up hints. And mouse over the version, you see you get all the information off to the right. So you don't know what and something obscure LEE is. You mouse over that and you see it's an Isaac Leeser Jewish Bible and so forth. So you can have, and I've got English, I've got Spanish, obviously Greek and Hebrew showing there on an individual basis.
And Dan, does NA28 come as stock part of the basic package?
Yep. Yep. I mean to show you that later as well, but you get, and I don't know any program that gives you so much for the base price. It's for $389, if you've never had Bibleworks before, they just give an amazing array of, I mean, just including Daniel Wallace's Greek grammar beyond the basis, including Waltke's Old Testament Hebrew grammar, including TWOT, and literally hundreds of versions in like 40-something languages. All of that standard. You can buy add-on modules as well, but all of that standard. Now, in my other applications I like, you've got to pay for a lot of that. They don't come standard, and for a higher price. Anybody who's had a previous version of Bibleworks doesn't pay the $389. It's less to upgrade, but $389 is amazing. I mean, to skip ahead to my bottom line, I think every pastor ought to have Bibleworks. I think a church whose pastor doesn't have it ought to get him Bibleworks. It'll be good for him. It'll be good for them. I just absolutely love it. I think I may have said that before. I'm sorry. I'll try to be a little less giddy, but let me show you why I'm so giddy. So while we're in this, let me just show you. So you've got this Hebrew, and your Hebrew is, let's say, middling. Look what happens instantly when I mouse over a word. Bam! There it is. There's both aspects of it. This word is Wyomer. So there's the wa, and then there's the verb below it. The red tells you that it's in the cal stem, and at the bottom it says it's a masculine singular homonym from amar. So I look at that and I say, how many times does Wyomer occur in Genesis? If I want Genesis only, I'll go over here and type an L, which means limit, space, Gen, which means Genesis. Press enter, and you notice a little, this green box turns yellow. It tells me I've limited the search. I right-click this, and holy cow, look at all the things I can do with that one word, just a right-click. What I want to do is I want to search on that exact form. So I'm going to say search on form. That's got to take a long time, right? Let's see how long that takes. Bam. Well, it took 0.37 seconds to tell me that exact form 347 times in the book of Genesis.
Hey, Dan, would you mind repeating the search, but can you do it with the two words, Vyomer Elohim?
Absolutely. What you do is you click, drag, select, right-click, search for phrases, for phrase. Bam. 0.13 seconds later, I've got all of the occurrences of Vyomer Elohim in Genesis, which is 20 times. Pretty cool, right? And that's, how fast is that? Now, if I say, wait a minute, well, how many times in the Old Testament then? 20 times in Genesis. So I just type L and enter it and see it removes the limit. Now I've got the whole Old Testament. So I'll select again. Actually, I don't have to select again. I could go here, click that, and there's Vyomer Elohim already. So I don't even have to click the right again. I'll just click that, and this time it takes a whole 0.28 seconds to tell me that there are 26 hits. Now hits is what you want to look at. Sometimes there will be more than one per verse. Like you have a lower number of verses than hits. That's if a word occurs more than once in a verse, you'll have higher hits. So that's how many times it is in the whole Old Testament. So I want to, my Hebrew's not that good, and I want to see what Elohim means, let's say. My Hebrew's really not good if I don't know what Elohim means. So I go over to the Analysis tab here, I mouse over it, and by default it's showing me the holiday definition. Or if I go to Resources and I do that same thing, holy macro, look at all the things it's got. Let me select Elohim, make sure that there we go. All the things it's got. Here's Brown Driver and Briggs, which does come standard with the package. Used to cost us $50, $75 in seminary to get a hard copy of that. It just comes with Bibleworks. So I could click on that, and I could see their article in a pop-up window, which is what their EPUB reader is like. It's a pop-up window. Notice all these are highlighted. Look at that. Instantly, when I mouse over it, it shows me the verse. It shows me in Hebrew, NAS, and in Greek, each of these verses. I don't have to look them up. I want to go through the lexicon article, bam, there it is, right there, just for a mouse over. I'm not even clicking anything. And that was just a BDB, but down here, oops, I lost my place. Down here we've also got holiday, which we saw. Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, I'm pretty sure is standard with it. And Cool. Let's go to a more obscure passage. Let's say Psalm 5:5 that might have a. Oops, there is no Psalm 5:54, is there? That's what I get for trying to talk and do at the same time. Okay, take me to Psalm 5:5, and there we go. Yagurka. Okay, let's look at Yagurka. Yeah, good deal. Okay, here's what I want to show you. I mouse over that. Look here under Brown, Driver, and Briggs. It has the heading for the lemma, but it also will take you right to where it talks about that particular passage. If you see it down here, you see the verse and the lemma. You click on that, and there's the part. You don't have to search through the whole article to find out where they give, say, a gloss or a discussion of that Hebrew phrase. It takes you right there. Or let's see, does it have it in one of the other? Yeah, it's mentioned in Harris's Theological Word Book of the Old Testament. It would also tell you if it's discussed in one of the grammars. Here's Gazania's Hebrew grammar. It is mentioned under this article here. You click there, and Psalm 5:5 is mentioned here, as you see in Gazania's. So whatever grammars you have, whatever even theologies you have, I've got a whole lot of stuff added to mine, but here's the mention in Bavinck, in the early church fathers, ESV Study Bible, Grudem Systematic Theology. All this is under the Resources tab, and you see how instantaneous that is. So let's see. How am I? Any questions? Well, I'm pausing to look at my list here. Not yet?
One question.
Yes.
Do you know how much they're charging to upgrade your Hebrew lexicon to Hallett?
I can tell you. I've got it over here in my Google. Oh, here we go. Clicking the wrong Google. So, I'm going to get to the right place here. Here's Bibleworks. And here is the page that lists all the features. And I'll get to your question in a second. As long as I'm here, let me just do a quick scan here to see where we are on the Bibleworks webpage. This lists out everything that comes in this package. And you've asked about the things that are new. They have in green the things that are added to this version, like the EPUB reader. And I especially want to show down here, I mean, it goes on and on and on. But for translations in the language texts, what they've got, what they've added, the Peshitta, the Samaritan Pentateuch, they've got a fully tagged Leningrad Codex. Sorry, I went blank on Leningrad for a second. Here's all the versions they have. Look at all of these English versions. But they've got Latin, Hungarian. You guys speak Hungarian, many of you? If you did, you'd be set. You'd be set. Croatian, Vietnamese, it's all there. It's really amazing. So all sorts of people, all sorts of ministries would have tools there for them in Bibleworks. Fully searchable, fully tagged, the whole 9 yards on all of them. So as far as the add-on modules, there's a Stuttgart. Oh, I know what you're asking. You're asking about Halot. Let me take us there. Products, modules. That's where you would find that. I think you can get it separately, or you can get it bundled. So here's the Greek. So here's a combination of BDAG and Halot, Bauer, Donker, Arndt, and Gingrich, and Halot. You get them together for $212, or you can get just Halot for $159, just BDAG for $150. Okay. Answer your question?
Yeah, that's got it.
I muted my mic so I didn't interrupt you, but go ahead. Thank you very much.
No, that's okay. I appreciate the questions. It does remind me of a cool thing in terms of the New Testament. Let's go to the New Testament just for a quickness. 2 Peter 1, verse 1. Just because. So you see displayed off to the right there the different entries, and one that is new is Donker. I think something like 2009, Donker has come out with his own lexicon. Gingrich has one, and here's the Donker Greek English lexicon. That's standard. That's not extra. It comes with it. You can get the BDAG, or you get the Donker, and this is a recently produced lexicon that gives the sense, the different glosses, a discussion of the meaning of the word. It's really pretty good. I haven't used it a whole lot, but I've liked it for what I've used it for. So let me get to something that really excites me, that as far as I know, nobody does it as well as they do it. Let me clear all the tabs. And then I don't think I've shown you how to do this. I right-click this tab and say clear tab 1, and all those hits that I have are gone. So let me show you here. I'll go back to the full view. There's my Greek New Testament. And this Notes tab here. Now notice, so it's got notes. Now notice, as I mouse over these notes, that shifts. What are all those notes? Those are notes that I have created over the decades. Those are, is it decades by now? At least years. Those are notes that I have accumulated, that I've put in. And let me show you how long it takes to make one of those notes. I type in, hi guys, I enter, I move the mouse, it's saved. I didn't do anything to save it.
What is the note attached to? Is it attached to the word or the verse or what?
To the verse. There's a notes folder, and you'll see a to Pete folder, and you'll see 1_1, 1_2, whatever verses you've created notes for. If it hasn't made one, as soon as you enter something, it makes one. You don't have to do anything. You don't name it, you don't create it, you just enter your note in the notes. Now, let me show you how.
I'll say something to you, Dan. One thing that is slightly confusing to new users, and it got me with version 10, is by default it creates a chapter note. And you have to actually go in and turn on the notes. And you do that. I've got it opened up here as well. If you look up here in the upper right corner, notice where it has a chapter check mark. Right. If you click on that, it turns to a chapter note. If you unclick it, it turns to a verse note. And that's something that might confuse people, because I think that'll go the other direction. I think it ought to be by default tagged to attached to the verse instead of the chapter. And that would be my only complaint. I agree with you, though. Bibleworks notes are, in my opinion, one of the best features, because a best note-taking feature, because it's very simple, and I can open my Bibleworks notes in Word without doing anything in the program. I don't have to export it. It's just a rich text format document.
Fully formatted. That's exactly right. It's rich text. It's fully formatted. Yeah, let me show you. You made me think of something, and I'll use that to show you something about the notes. Now, I said I'm not a total brainiac. I'm not a total guru. But there is an online site, the Bibleworks forum, and they're total brainiacs, but they're nice guys, and they don't mind idiots asking questions. I can speak from experience. That's how I know. They don't mind slow-learning boneheads asking questions. They're very patient, very generous with their knowledge. But these guys are hardcore. I mean, if you ask them how to decalibrate the disquantificator, they know. And you may not even know there is a disquantificator. So they've got different categories, and they're the sorts of guys who would patiently point that out to you. So let me show you. Here's a typical real-life thing that happens. Every pastor, every teacher, you're browsing the web, and you come on this article on my friend's website. His name is David Murray. He's a professor, got a wonderful Scottish accent. If I could buy a Scottish accent, I would do it. But he's got this article, Tempted on All Points, that riffs partly off of John Piper's answer about Hebrews 4:15. You look at that, you say, okay, David Murray's a good guy. I know this is going to be worth something. I don't have the time to read it right now, but what? If you didn't have Bibleworks, you'd say, but boy, I hope I remember that when I get back to it. Or you might handwrite something in your Bible. Or you might write a card down and put it in your card catalog. But not me. I've got Bibleworks. So what I do is I just copy this URL. He's talking about Hebrews 4:15, so I go to Hebrews 4:15. You can space it like that. You can use the colon. You don't have to. I mouse over it. Boy, I don't have much. Although what I have is cool. There's Spurgeon. God had one son without sin, but he has no son without temptation. That's pretty cool. But I don't have much. So what I do is I just enter. I say David Murray on this, I can spell on normally, on this verse. And here's what I do. I'll highlight the whole thing. I can either go to the link thing, which is up here somewhere, but I always like keyboard shortcuts. There's the link for hypertext. I just do Control K. Control V, paste in the URL, click Insert in Document, and it's already saved. It's already there. So in 3 months or 3 years, when I'm talking about that verse, and I wish I had some more material, and I mouse over it, and by jingo, I did save something from David Murray, and I can go there and read it then. It works equally for journals, and like over here, I've got Detroit Baptist has put a lot of their journal articles online, Detroit Baptist Theological Seminary. And you go to one of these and you can save them. Or I also have and love Logos. Let me show you something, an example from Logos, okay? I'm reading through John Murray's Systematic Theology. John Frame, all the great Johns. John Frame, my eye was caught by John Murray there. And he's talking about angels here. And he says something I thought was kind of cute that I might like to quote if I ever speak on this passage. He says about 1 Corinthians 11:10, because of the angels. Paul has no need to explain this phrase. He assumes that they'll understand it. And then Frame says, but I recall my revered professor of theology, John Murray, shaking his head sadly after reading this passage and confessing that he had no idea what it meant. And then Frame says, nor can I offer insight. I think that's really kind of cool. So what I do is I select that, right-click it. I'm not here to demo Logos 6, although I'd love to do that too. It's a great software. So I've copied that. I go over here to 1 Corinthians 10:11, and there it is. Did I do that wrong, though? Is that the wrong verse? He says, because of the angels. Right? 11:10. Whoops. And I can just type in 11:10, and it'll take me there within that book. So there's the right verse. It's kind of you not to point out my mistake. So here I just say John Frame cites John Murray's bafflement at this clause, and I could just highlight that and Control K. Uh-oh, what do I put there? Well, I'll go back to Logos, and if I do, let's see, I've gone blank. Control C or Control, when are you a big Logos user? Control
What are
C.
you trying to do? You're trying to get the
I'm trying
tab.
to copy I'm trying to copy the reference.
Well, if you don't know the keyboard shortcut, go up to your book picture on the top left corner, and you can find the link that way.
You know, I swear to you, I do this every day. It's only right now that I'm trying to do it.
Just click on that book cover up in the upper left corner of your page there.
Yep.
It'll drop down, and one of the things that you get is at the very bottom, copy location as URL.
Okay. And then I'll paste it in here. Insert in document. There it is. So clicking
Dan,
this.
Can I ask you to jump forward a little bit? We're at 9:30 right now, and I know there's at least 2 or 3 features that we've talked about that we'd like to see you demonstrate. And you're doing a great job, and I think we're getting the basics of using Bibleworks. But I want us to kind of focus a little bit now going forward on some of the new stuff. Can you talk about first of all the Bible views, and then after that the EPUB reader?
Let me finish my thought on this in less than a minute, and one other thing, and then I'll move on to newer stuff.
Okay.
I just wanted to say I've got this here, and I just wanted to point out that there's also an editor tab that you can use. This creates articles. It's also fully formatted. So this doesn't change from verse to verse. So if I'm doing a study on the Holy Spirit or whatever, I'll take all my notes here on the editor tab, and I'll save a file wherever I want to save it there. So that's a way of creating. You don't have to be in Word and Bibleworks. You can create it here in Bibleworks. Do you mind if I go to a different new feature that I'm a little more familiar with, which
Yeah, go
is
ahead.
the user-created lexicon?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. The user-created lexicon is just what it sounds like, although it's hard to feature that it really can be. But you notice the entry here, Theos. That's just because that's where my mouse must have been pointing. You see, as I move my mouse, it's changing. So suppose I go to Andros here. The form here is Andros or Andros. I do the Machen pronunciation. Over there is the dictionary heading form, on air. So if I am on that, I can create my own lexicon here. This is my lexicon on the word for man. And just do that just to be fast. And just like the notes thing, once I leave it, it's saved. But here's the thing that I want to show you about it. If I go to any verse, anywhere that has that word, my lexicon comes up. So if you do translation like I do, when I preach through a book, I translate it. I preach through Proverbs, I translated it. And you want to have some sort of consistency in your translation. Remember how you normally translate binah or whatever word. You create your own user lexicon, and wherever you come on that word, there's what you have noted on it. And it's just like the editor in the notes. It's fully formatable. You can put links, you can put journal articles, you can put web pages or references as long as you want, as detailed as you want, and it comes up instantly when you mouse over that word. Isn't that a cool feature? I just think that's awfully cool if somebody does any translation at all. So I'm just starting to get into that, and I've got a lot of lost ground to recover on that. And I mentioned the Leningrad Codex. That's another new feature. If you're in well, there it is. I'll just stick with where it is. It's a fully tagged photograph of the Leningrad Codex, and it has a whole lot. Bibleworks has a whole lot more manuscript information that I'm not well trained enough and experienced enough to really take you through all of it. But here's an example of something that you can do, given that it's got these two columns now, and that's new to Bibleworks 10. It's got these two columns. Remember, I said that I can drag the tabs anywhere I want. So I might have here this as I go through Genesis and notice that it changes as I go through Genesis. And I could refer to that in that column. Or again, suppose I'm doing translation, since I've mentioned that. This is the button that gives us the single verse display. And I can go over here. And here's something I did. For instance, I'm not very educated in Aramaic at all. I've had a lot of Hebrew and Greek, but just about no Aramaic. So when I was reading through the books like Daniel with Aramaic passages, you can use that to help you in your reading. Get some really fundamentally literal translation over here, like Rotherham is one of the most literal, or they also have Young's literal translation. And as you're reading through it in Aramaic over here, you can follow along over there, or once again, the mouse overs help you out as you go through it. So this is a new feature, having two columns that you can have over here. The browse or your user lexicon, that's new. Also, they have an EPUB reader. Now, I don't in this version have any EPUB books, but you can import EPUB books, and you see they've got one on each of these frames, and you can read those through Bibleworks as well. So you can have any of a whole lot of texts in there in the EPUB reader.
Dan, I'm showing a book in mine. I just this morning imported one, so that'll give people a chance to see what it looks like.
Sure. Should I stop sharing?
Yeah. No, you're fine. Keep what you're doing. Let me just show you what I've got here. It's really easy to do if you have an EPUB. Hit that open button, grab this import button, and of course then you can find it anywhere on your hard drive, which I already did this, so I won't hit open. But then it shows up in this list here, and they have 3 columns. One, you can sort these by title, author, category, and then when you select one, you can load it. But before you load it, what I would suggest doing, hitting these 3 little buttons and assign it to a category. And that's what I did. I put this EPUB in the Biblical Studies category. But you can put it anywhere, you know. But this book happens to be, you know, it's not really a commentary, but it is about the Bible, so that's why I put it there. And then you can either double-click it or hit load, and it shows up. It gives you your table of contents. You can search it just like you could any other Bibleworks resource. And then one thing that's nice about this is it goes and finds the texts, you know, the links to verses, and immediately makes them so they're pop-ups, plus you can click on them, and they'll show up over here in your browse window.
Now, how did it know that was 1 Samuel there? Because it just says 26:23.
Honestly, I guess it's smart.
It's a little bit of voodoo, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure. It could be that the EPUB is tagged that way, because I bought this EPUB off of ChristianBook.com. It's a little 99-cent book that I got. I just looked for one real cheap that I might use one day, just this morning, just to be able to demonstrate it right here and to check it out myself. But
do we know yet because this was a question that I originally raised when this feature was first announced? Can you edit these EPUBs after you've imported them, or are they set once they're imported?
I don't see any way to do that. Honestly, I don't have any idea. Let's see. I don't see anything in here that looks like you can. Do you guys see anything that looks like it?
But once they're pulled in, they're fully searchable, and you interact with them the same as you would any title that came with Bibleworks. Is that correct?
Yeah, I just search for the word grace, and so I can click on it and find that word in this EPUB.
But like if you search from a biblical text, you know, and you did a search, would it also show up in the book?
What do you mean by like searching over here?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I would even do that, Dan. Do you know how you might even do that?
No, I don't. But if I can reach back, if you were to ask that question,
you see those titles showing up there. You know that you've got
in the resources.
Yeah.
No, so I don't think it shows up in the resources. Let's see here. References, options. I don't see a place to add EPUB. And again, that would take probably a lot more tagging than they're able to do with a third-party tool.
Kev, what about linking to something in an EPUB in your notes? What is Antoine doing?
Yeah,
well, while we were paused, let me just insert. If you were to ask that question at the Bibleworks forum I showed you, one of those brainiacs, he's probably shouting at his screen right now, saying, "Why did they pick Phillips? I know the answer to that question," but they'd be able to answer that question.
You know, this right-click menu is really just, I think it's just the Internet Explorer right-click. I think they're just using the Internet Explorer engine. Because notice when I clicked, it said New Note. So I clicked New Note, and it just brought up my Evernote. You know, which I do have Evernote, you know, in Internet Explorer. So I don't think there's a lot of complex features here, but just the fact that it does it within the software is, in my opinion, you know, a valuable tool, especially considering Bibleworks' past philosophy of, you know, we're not going to add a whole lot of extras other than just stuff about the Bible. This is kind of their medium, middle way of allowing people to expand a digital library if they want to, even though Bibleworks isn't going to help them do it directly.
I really like that feature, and I'm sure there's room to grow with it too, and add more features to the EPUB import.
Yeah. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to insert something on that about what Bibleworks does and doesn't focus on. One of the most common questions is what's the difference between Bibleworks and Logos, and so all of us who enjoy both try to come up with our own answers. Here's mine. Logos is like having a digital library in your computer, a really high-tech, excellent library. Bibleworks is like having an infinite study Bible that you're writing. It's like having a Bible with margins that stretch out forever, that you can enter anything you want on each verse and expand it. So its focus is on the text, and they bring in those books and whatnot, but that's really Logos' strength. Logos doesn't have anything like the things I just showed you about verse-by-verse notes is that fast, that convenient. It just doesn't have that. But what it does have is an incredible array of resources. Bibleworks focuses on the text. That's what they do best. Another new thing about Bibleworks 10 is they've got a complete recording of the New Testament in Greek. They've got that in the Byzantine text, and I think NA27. So anywhere in the New Testament, you can click, and it'll read for you in that distinctively different Greek translations. I don't know if you care for a demo of that, but and I don't know how fast I can
how to
find
get to it.
What was that?
I said, just show us
How
how
to get to it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you right-click inside a verse, and you see down here. I was right. 27. Open NA27 audio player. That's the NA27 unique pronunciation, or likewise you can have Byzantine. Sounds a little more seminary style of pronunciation. But those are two new things. Also, they've got 1,200 high-resolution photos of the Holy Land, and I've not really tried that out yet. But so those are some of the new things. Nestle Aland edition 28 of the New Testament, that's included in Bibleworks 10. So you wanted to focus on the new things. Any other particular, and like I showed, that page I showed you lists them out, all the things that are new about Bibleworks 10. I think one of the most amazing things is that user lexicon. That's something that really appeals to me. I'm going to make a whole lot of use out of that.
How about the Bible views from the tools menu? Can you?
I have not. I don't think I've used that. So are you ready to show something? You want to show something about that?
Yeah, I'll share my screen and show you how. That's one of the things I was just focusing on before I started here. All right. The way I got to this, I don't know. There may be other ways, but I went to Tools, and then Resources. I'm sorry. And how did I get to it? Pictures. There we go. Bible views. And then it's sorted by topic, and so you can look at these. Gives you some information about it. I don't know if this is tied to a text or not. If you can easily get to it from, let's see here. What could I look for that might help me? Somebody help me out. Give me a reference that might have a cultural reference kind of deal in it.
Oh, actually, that's in Egypt or something like that, maybe.
Oh.
So I right-click in Exodus 1:1, and I see a default Bible dictionary or maps, but I don't see anything about the Bible views.
What am I doing wrong here in my search?
Oh, I wasn't looking at you. I was looking at me. Let me look at you. What?
You have to put a period in front of the word.
Oh, yeah. I should have said something about that. Right. You need to put if you're going to search for just the word, put a period before the word, right?
Also, can't type.
Look at me teaching Bibleworks.
All right.
It's so simple, anybody can do it.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. That period thing, Bibleworks really needs to get rid of that. That's
They
it
won't.
should be smart enough to figure that out. I don't mean to be
I
mean or cruel about it, but they need to figure out that if I'm typing a word that's not a reference, that it needs to just automatically search that, because I know it's an easy thing to get to do, but
Yes.
new users really freak out. What's going on? Like I had forgotten.
Yeah.
So
You're not the first.
Thing, Kevin.
Yeah, you're not the
It's,
first.
they call it a command line. So it
Right.
really is. It's for geeks, but for normal people, it's kind of rough.
yeah, but there's
So on
like 12 Bible students in the world that want a command line. Everyone else wants just a basic search box.
Well, can I grab back for a second and show something, or are you on to something?
Yeah, I can't find a way to get to it easy without opening that resources, but let me just show you, real quick.
Sure. Well, so off to the left.
Example, you open that up, and it shows you the picture here, and then of course you can jump to the reference real easily in Bibleworks. So go ahead.
Yeah, and just to tag off of what you last said, you can take that picture and you could paste that into your notes. The notes are fully. You can paste images, or you can paste diagrams. For instance, just while I'm on that thought, notice I've got a table. I've got an illustration pasted in here, so you can put anything in. But talking about search, the two probably most commonly used are if you just want to search for a word or a verse that has words, you just put a dot, and if I say love and I say life, it'll find the verses that have both those words in them. But if I want the exact phrase, I just put that apostrophe in there, and I do love life, and there's one verse that has that exact phrase. But I wanted to show one more thing just before we got off that. If you right-click in there, the top item is command line examples. Just so I'm right-clicking in the command line, there's command line examples. So it'll take you something to remind you of all the things you can do in changing versions and what you search for. I mean, all of the conventions and examples for how to do that. We all forget from time to time. Right-click, command line examples will remind us. So you use that for searches. You also use it for changing versions, as I probably have done but not explained. If I just do BGT, it'll take me to that version. If I do ROT, it takes me to that version. So it does a little more than just searching. And it's Boolean. So like if I do dot and I search for LI apostrophe, obviously it finds everything that starts with the letters LI. And you can
Yes,
use
can you show us I think most programs do the Boolean. Can you show us the graphical? Is that what it's called, the graphical?
No, I can't. Sorry, I cannot. Okay. Yeah, it has a very powerful graphical user interface that I have tried and I just don't get it, and I don't use it. I'm sorry.
It's one of these things. I've got the window open. You just find it under search, and I've really never used it much, but it's there, and that's what people can grab for. Like you can put a word in here. Right. See here, I'm forgetting how to do even that. You double click it and put the word in there, and then anyway, and you tie it with these lines. And honestly, I don't remember how to do it. Years and years ago, I went to a Bibleworks class at Gordon Conwell Seminary in Charlotte, and they showed that, and I went, "Whoa, that's cool!" And then I've never even. That's maybe the first time I opened it since that class, like in 2006.
Yes.
So,
you and me both, brother.
It's one of those tools that really advanced scholars look at it and say, "Oh, that'll be great. I can use that every single day." But the rest of us kind of
exactly.
I don't know when I'd use that, but that's neat.
Exactly. The guys over at the forum, a lot of those guys use that all the time. But the point is, you can use this tool at whatever your level of comfort is. So here you've got a couple of pastors. We've got our level of comfort of using it, and I use it every day, and I use it all the day. But the scholars over at Bibleworks, these guys who are teaching in seminary and whatnot, they're really into what you're talking about, and they get under the hood, and they know exactly where the distronificator is and how to be calibrated. They know all that.
And we've just got a few minutes left. Is there just one more new feature or exciting feature in Bibleworks you want to show off? And that's really all we're going to have time for. Just maybe one more. Do it in about 2 or 3 minutes.
I made sure that I got right to the stuff I love the most.
Okay, well, do you guys have any questions for Dan real quick at the end here, Rick or Wes? Or
I just had one comment. If people were interested in using the advanced search engine, which is what that graphical one is called, if you create a search that you know works on the command line, you can send it to the graphical engine, and it'll show you how it creates it in the advanced. So if people want to play around with the nerd tools, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, Rick, you have a question?
Yeah, Dan, thanks first of all for being here today. Really appreciate this. And uh, I figured out who you were when you said pyromaniacs because I've been looking at your blog on and off for years. So thanks for that as well. Always like your graphical touches that you have on your blog.
Thanks.
But I don't know if they told you or not, but I work for Accordance, and but I also have a copy of the current version 10 of Bibleworks on my machine, and I was a Bibleworks user back in the 90s. My last version before 10 that I had bought was 3.5.
Oh.
And, so that shows you how far back it was, because I switched to the Mac in 1998, and there was no Macintosh option. In fact, that's how I discovered Accordance, and I actually found a lot of parity between the two, especially when you talk about focus on the text and so forth. But anyway,
well,
go ahead.
I reached out to Accordance years back with the thought of maybe doing a review, but they said it was Mac only, Mac only, and I'm a PC user, and they haven't reached out to me since, so I've never really looked at one. But Bibleworks is available on Mac now, and I hear that Accordance is available on PC.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we're covered on both sides now.
Rick, can you share your screen and just real quick let us see Bible, or do you have it open, or?
I can open it here pretty quick, and I'll start it opening.
Just so you can get a look at what it looks like on a Mac.
Then I'll share my screen.
While he's doing that, guys, you can look at, here's the Pyromaniacs. It's teampyro.blogspot.com is where I found it. Do you have a regular URL that is easy to remember, Dan, that people can go to?
That's it, but if they search Pyromaniacs plural, they'll get there. But Team Pyro will also take them there. And I've written a couple of books you'll see in the margin there, World Tilting Gospel and a study in Proverbs. That's in Logos, actually.
All right.
Okay. If you see my screen here now, this is Bibleworks on the Mac, and mine started in 8.84 seconds. That was faster than yours, Dan. My real question, though, that I was going to ask, I just took a long way to get there, was for someone like me who hasn't used it since 3.5, I did figure out the other day to put the period in front of the word before you search, but what's the best way for a new user or a returning user to go about learning Bibleworks?
Use their videos. They have a truckload of training videos. They have it in the program. They've also got it on YouTube. That's a really good way to get going. Or get someone like me. If you have a friend like me, we love to show Bibleworks. So he'll come walk you through. Just bring pizza.
Yeah, here's the YouTube channel. I'm showing it on screen now, and if you go there,
a lot of training videos. Yeah.
Here, there's if my screen. All right. You go to the playlist. I mean, these aren't videos; these are playlists with multiple videos. So, yeah, they've spent a lot of. They're like Accordance in that they do lots of training on video. So that's the easiest way I think to learn is watch instead of read.
Sure.
On how to do it.
Good question. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else have a question for Dan before we wrap up? All right. Well, Dan, I really appreciate you being here. This was awesome. You did a great job, and I think people have a good sense of what it looks like and how it works. Maybe no one's going to become an expert by watching this, but they at least have a taste of what it looks like and how it works. And people who haven't upgraded yet can see some of the cool new features. And I do really like that. I hadn't really thought or used that user lexicon feature, but I can see that being a truly beneficial thing for your study. I do a lot of research. I like to do word study. That's one of my favorite things. And so, being able to do a word study once and then garner that research that I did at a later time will be really beneficial.
And not have to say, so what verse did I put all my notes under? I mean, it's nice to have it saved, but you got to remember, where did I do all that stuff? But not now.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Listen, we are hitting the 10 o'clock hour, which means we need to shut things down. We're looking forward to coming next week. Next week we'll have another guest. I told you all last week about this man he's a businessman, also from Texas, and I don't say his name very well because he's Vietnamese, but anyway, he is going to come on and talk a little bit about how he uses his business in the medical technology field to help support the kingdom of God, and specifically, I got to know him by him giving me an accessory for my Surface Pro 3 that I reviewed for GottaBeMobile.com, and I found out he was a Christian brother, and so I wanted to invite him on and talk to us about his use of technology for supporting the kingdom of God. So we'll have that next week, and then sometime soon after that, we're going to have another guest. We had Paul Allen Clifford, who was he's sort of a pro presenter guru, and we're going to have him come back on sometime in the next month or so and talk about some tips for doing good presentations in your church. He's not going to necessarily focus just on pro presenter, but more generalized on how to do that. So I look forward to that as well. But we're going to finish off and sign off. Thanks for watching the Theotek podcast. We hope that you'll subscribe to us on YouTube and go over to theotek.com where you can see all of our links and find all of our videos. If you go to that page as well, you can also find out how to get a hold of us on Stitcher Radio and iTunes. And as a result of those two, you can also get us in just about any audio podcasting app that you use on a smartphone, a tablet, or anywhere else, and listen to it. I don't think we'll do an audio version of this one because that would be sort of frustrating for audio users. So maybe we'll record a separate audio podcast just for this week. But I'm not going to promise that. We're all busy. But thanks for being here. Appreciate you guys being here, and especially thank you to you, Dan Phillips.
Yes.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. And be sure to tell your Vietnamese friend that Bibleworks 10 New has Vietnamese in it.
All right.
It's a new feature.